Yeah, I think it's rolling. Yeah. Hi everyone. It's 3 a.m. I have to go to bed. Yeah. So this is the video regarding homework number 6 of Econ 02. This is so far my attempt at it. I'm currently recording this on, well, it's technically Wednesday, but Tuesday technically. So I haven't had all the time I could take to do this. Okay. In truth, I have a lot of things to do, a lot of obligations to fulfill, but I'm going to hopefully try to make a good enough video on this. Now, I must say, technically I haven't completed the second part yet. Sorry. But hopefully I should be able to take you through the process of thinking about it and answering it in your own way, because technically it's open. But I think I know how to do it, so I'll just give you guys what I can. Okay? Today might not be quality, it might be. I can't really tell you, but hopefully something will come out of it that you'll find helpful. And I think the main thing you'll find helpful is the first bit. Now, the graph of surrounding this question is the more complicated part. Okay, so let's first of all look at Fred. So, we have Fred economic data, alright? Now, what does the question ask of us? Let's just go over that quickly. If I could only get my tabs sorted out. So, the question asks us, as you can see here, you've got a table in figure 13.8 that shows us the contributors towards GDP. You see here you've got consumption, you've got investment, you've got government spending, and you've got net exports. Hopefully that's clear. Actually, I'm going to let the entire screen take this over. Now we're going to use... Where did it go? Yeah, it's back here. So what we're going to do, if you guys can sort of see here, is we're going to use contributions to percentage change in real gross domestic product. We're going to use so you've got consumption here, you've got investment, you've got government consumption, and you've got net exports, all of which are components of GDP. Okay? Now, using these four, and another, technically, we're going to be able to form a graph. Okay, so let me take you guys through how we would do that. So first of all, let's search up this starter one. Contribution to percentage change of real gross domestic product, personal consumption expenditure. I'm going to search up just by copy-pasting in. And right there, it should be at the top. Okay. So you see here, you should have this sort of wibbly line, so to say. The thing is, we specifically exclude parts of the data because if we include a lot of the data, then we're going to see this big spike. So, first thing you want to do, okay, and trust me when I say this, is you want to slim down, not between 2007 and 2014, but between 2008 quarter 1, which we're going to set as January, and 2009 quarter 4, which is quarter 3, which I believe is set at September. Yes, that's correct. Okay. So you want to set that at September. This is what you get. Alright? Now, I'm aware that the question is kind of providing difficult stuff for you, but it should be fairly clear from what the question is asking. You guys may have got some confusion from reading the graph instructions. So the question says, look at the recession period. So we have quarter 1 of 2008, and then including quarter 3 of 2009, as we can see here. But the thing is, the guidance for actually making the graph states from 2007 to 2014, even though it specifically asks you to cut down the data later. So what I do, and again, a disclaimer, I'm not always right, don't take it as gospel, please. But what I did, just slimming it down in that time frame right there. Okay? So we've got what we want so far here. Okay? You should have just some data sets for quarter 1 2008 to quarter 3 2009. Okay? Now we want to edit the graph. Currently it's fine, we want to keep it as quarterly. Okay? And we are going to add lines. Okay? Now, when it says type keywords to search data, you can pretty much copy paste again. So let's go back up there. You've got contribution to percentage change. We're going to copy, and we're going to paste, and there it is. Oh dear. If only I could move. It is this first one. Is it changing private inventories? Where? There it is. So we're going to add that data series then. And you can see if it shows up. There it is. There's our red line. Okay, it's also enlarged it back out. So now that I think about that, we might as well do government consumption expenditure to gross investment. So we've got that one. Let's just check that we've actually got the right one then. So you could, I highlight it and see. Government, yeah, this one looks to be the correct one. So adding this one as well. You can see as it's sort of changing along here. And then we're going to add one more line for now. And you'll have contributions to percentage change in real gross domestic products, net exports of goods and services. And yeah, that's it. Okay, we're going to add that data series. So you should now have a series of 4 lines. We are now going to slim it down. So let's get back to 2008 quarter 1 and 2009 quarter 3. And you can see here how it's moving. Okay? Alright. Now, we also want to look at the instructions for this as well, just so we're clear on what to do. Now it says in instruction 10, repeat 6 steps 6 to 8 to add real GDP. It goes by this code. Okay. Real GDP can simply be found by adding the line, typing real GDP, and you get real gross domestic product. You can see from the code underneath it that it's GDP-C1, pardon me. And we're going to add that as well. I think that's going to expand it again. It probably is going to, isn't it? Oh wait, I haven't added it yet. Yep, it expanded it again. Now, the thing with real GDP, you can see it's this massive blue line, and that's not really what we want to keep it as. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit the graph again, and we're going to change it from billions of change 2012 dollars to percentage change. And that'll give us what we want. See, now it's in line with what we've got previously. Let me set it back to the timescale we want. Nope, wrong one. Ignore that for now. There we go. And then we're changing it back to 2009 quarter 3. And now we've got our 3 statistics. Okay? Hopefully that should be good. They're all in quarterly, as we know. And now what we're going to do is we're now going to download that data. So we're going to download. And now I've got Fred Graph 2. Okay, well this is the second one. Ignore that. That was my previous workings. So now we've got this Excel sheet. Okay? So we've got a lovely Excel sheet. It's very pretty. It's kind of annoying what they're saying next, though. So the weird thing is here, and why I think something has messed up halfway, is that they say here that the correct data is incorporating years 2007 in it, right? But I feel like part of this question was for 2007, 2014 before, and they maybe failed to change this part, because everything else mentions 2008 to 2009, quarter 3, quarter 1, and then you've got these random mentions of 2007 to 2014, which would include, what was that, 48 quarters of data overall, which seems to be odd, right? So, if you can sort of see the instructions here, this is pretty much how it goes. So it says type in, oh god, pardon me, I've got to close my window, all the mites are getting in. There's that mosquito, I guess. Well, it's blood's over my wall now, I guess. Have fun. Ah, getting bitten as well. Hopefully you guys still see me. So we've got the, yeah, these two. So it says type in cell G15, which is this one. Real, enable editing. There we go. Real GDP growth brackets annualized. I'm using the S annualized because I'm not American. Although it is an American data set, but I don't care. Then it says, in cell G16, type the following formula. F16, which refers to the cell relevant to real GDP growth, times 4. Now, the point of doing this is to annualize the data. Because our data is currently in a quarterly form, okay, we want to make it in such a form where this growth applies on an annual level. So this is more like annual growth, almost. Yeah? Now, you've got that there. See, the thing is, select cells and copy them, okay? Now, the thing is, what would be weird about this is that that's not, I don't think that's correct. I think that's sort of a misinterpretation, because if we went about this question, okay, you would select these cells, copy them, and then it says click cell F15, which is this one, right click F cell 15 and paste in the values. Then it says delete the cells prior. Okay. What this would mean is that we'd have one value here, which I feel something's gone wrong with. Now, I'm not stating that the teaching staff are sort of like, oh, they've done it wrong. But it seems at the very least weird to me that you'd only have one value for something that would be considered a series. So what I do, so you see there's a little green dot on the bottom of the cell, okay? Bottom right-hand corner. And then when you hover over it, a black plus sign should appear. Hold, and drag it down. You can now see it's filled in for GDP growth annualized by the formula we've used. Okay, so you can see for our first one we used F16 times 4, you've got F17 times 4, all the way to F22 times 4. And again, the range of cells aligns well with what we have here. So I still think it's the 2008 to 2009 bit. Okay, now we want to select our data. So we'll select the data here, okay, and we're going to go to Insert and Recommended Charts. You should see this chart or this, okay? Now, either of these are fine. I'm just going to insert both, just to make a comparison. Did I insert both of the same? I did. Let's insert the stacked one. So, both of these are perfectly fine. Okay. Actually, wait. No, I need to delete these cells. We're going to copy. Okay, this is what it's stating. So copy, I'm just pressing Control-C. Then you click on that. You press right-click. Paste special should appear here. And then you're going to press the arrow to the side. And then there's a little thing called paste values. It just says values here. I'm just going to paste that in. Okay, and then what we do is we just delete these. So delete. Yeah, they're finding formula problems. You can see that it's been simplified to a smaller form here, but it's still the same value as it was before. Okay, so we've still got, yeah, it's got a ref error, which is why I think we're going to have to redo these graphs. Ref means that when it says ref exclamation mark in your graphs, I'm just going to do this quickly, ignore this. When it says ref exclamation mark, it means that the value is referring to a cell that no longer exists. So it's essentially like, it's like calling a data set that's empty. It doesn't make sense. So hopefully that should matter. Now, both of these work. I'm very well aware that the question asks for stacked bar charts, which is this one on the right. Okay? Stacked bar charts are fine. They work. But I feel it is harder to see what's doing what in that period, which is why I prefer this one. So this graph, which is a, I believe it's called something. What is it called? Is it a clustered? I think it's a clustered column. Okay? I think it makes it easier to look at. Now, again, you don't need to think that one is better than the other. Also, my thing. What? Oh, it's no. It look. Oh, for bloody Moodle with the time limits. Hold on, give me a moment here. Hello again. Okay, looking back at the graph. Sorry for the interim. I always find that I'm recording and it just goes like boop, and something goes wrong. You can never rest. But we've got here. Oh, what does the question ask again? No, that's the yeah. Create your own chart. Ideally, a stacked bar graph. So you can do a clustered bar graph if you would like. Okay? Now, again, it's your preference, but I like I like clustered 1, because you can see how everything's changing. Again, there is still something we need to do with this data. So we're going to right-click on the actual graph. You should see a drop-down menu like this. You're going to click Change Chart Type, I believe, and go to Combo. I don't know if this works on your operating system or not, but this is what's working on mine, and that's really all I can provide you at the moment. What we want to do is we want to change all the long words to clustered column, and you want to change real GDP growth annualized to line with a secondary axis. Then you should get something that looks like this. Okay. So you should have that. Yeah. I think I did this all right. Did I do that all right? Anyway, yeah. So you should have this. Adding in the axis titles, you should have, you see this top left bit, add chart elements. You could just add axis titles. So primary vertical, secondary vertical, like literally just as easy as saying, I want those in. And for the horizontal titles, you want to click right-click. You want to click select data. There's the horizontal category axis labels, and you want to click edit on those. And what you're essentially going to do is you're going to type out which ones you want. So say I want quarter 1, 2008 for my first one, and then quarter 2, 2008. So you just do these for every one of the ones that you want. Again, it's not too bad. It is a bit tiresome. That's why I am padding time until I have to say something else, because I need to do this in front of you. And I can't think of anything else to say. There we go. All right, now we've got labels for it. Obviously, you can just make labels for these by just changing the titles of on the graph. You can also just change the titles by going change chart type. No, not change chart type. Go to select data and then changing these manually. But I mean, like, you could just change the titles. It really doesn't matter. You can change it through this, or you can change it through the other thing. So you could do like series name. I don't even understand. But yeah, that's pretty much that. So hopefully you should have now a graph. We can also hold on, let's do this with this as well, just in case anyone has who's decided to take the stacked route and they need help on that. So if you decide to take the stacked route, it's the same thing. You're going to go to change chart type, combo, and then put everything to a clustered column, or a stacked column, I think. Yeah, everything has to be to a stacked column. Hopefully this should all auto-adjust, and then this one's going to be another axis. And you should get something like this over this period. So you can see sort of how it's moving. Yeah. So that should generally be, I think this shows, it does show the movement a little easier, I find. But, I don't know, sort of makes it more confusing for me. I don't know what about you guys, what you guys might think. Again, the same steps apply. All right, now let's look at the actual questions. Describe the contributions to US growth in the recession and the recovery in phase 3. Okay, so prepare a table like the one in figure 13.8. So, let me just go back to the one that I had previously, because it's a little easier to explain the contributions. So, let's take a look here. You can see here that, okay, so essentially the recession period, we're going to say, is starting from quarter 1, 2008 to essentially lasting until quarter 2, 2009. And then the recovery period's quarter 3, right? So, also, we have to prepare a table for this. Use the statistics you have here for GDP growth. Although it's sort of weird because they don't add up to the annualized growth. If you can sort of see this here, if you add these all up, as a matter of fact, you don't actually get the annualized value, you know? And plus these are quarterly values as well, right? So you're not really getting annualized GDP. Now, what it's saying here is that it wants something similar to the table here. There's a table here, you've got the big old table, GDP consumption, and all this adds up, is the main thing. It all adds up to what you'd expect. So I suppose you could just try adding up your components and then going for GDP. Or if you'd even like, you could just go with this and see and just take values from here. And instead of having it in quarterly, you have it in annual mode instead. So if you have it in annual mode, then you can see that. Did I even change it to annual mode? Oh, I changed the GDP to annual mode. Okay, I think we need to change all of them to annual mode, didn't we? Yeah, so annual and annual. How tedious. Annual and annual. Did that work? Probably well hope so. So now we've got 2009 and 2008. So you should have that there. So I think I'm going to use these values for my graphs. So I'm doing one for 2008 and 2009, which is, I suppose, not entirely accurate, because 2009 would include quarter 4. But I'm going to do this, because it's a bit confusing about which values to use. So I'm doing that. I feel like that's valid. I'm going with it. Alright. Well, do be upon me if I dare try to think otherwise, I suppose. But yeah. So let's go back to the actual question. Describe the continuous contributions to US growth. So we're essentially seeing here that, actually let me relabel everything just to make everything a little easier to explain. As you can sort of see here. So we've got consumption. This is private consumption really, but I just like to list it as consumption. We've got investment, which is where a lot of people get put invest. It's a rather horrific thing, you know? The investment. The great investment of 2008 was just a lot of people just putting on those like really bad waistcoats. Really tragic. They looked terrible. Anyway. So we've got our 4 here. We've got consumption, investment, I should probably say government spending, and net exports. So we've got those 4 there. So we can see here that consumption is just like relatively minorly affected at the start. But you can see when the bulk of the recession hit during the quarter 4 of 2008, private spending, private consumption spending? What is it saying? Yeah, it's consumption expenditures. It takes an immediate hit as soon as we see GDP's growth dropping down. Also, something to note, technically the 0 for the secondary axis for GDP growth, is some reason in Excel it ends up slightly elevated above the 0 line for the other one. I don't know why. It's pretty annoying. Honestly, I don't think they need a secondary graph, but the question recommends it. Just something to note. But you can see that personal consumption takes an immediate hit and then starts sort of recovering as the economy recovers. Now, how I interpreted this is that personal consumption is your reaction in the present, okay? A consumer changes their personal consumption based on what present situation they are looking at. You know, they look at the current prices, they look at their current balance, and they think, how am I spending today, okay? Now, investment is a much more long-term procedure, okay? So you can see investment takes a very large hit during this period, really. So you have a very large hit to investment, decreasing by negative 6.36, negative 7.18. Yeah, so it's pretty bad. Now, the thing is, with investment, it recovers slower than consumption, I feel. Because investment is about what happens in the future. It is more volatile, but it is also reacted much more severely as well. So the reaction is bigger. But because it's focused on the future and investors aren't entirely certain that they've got out of a recession yet, because it's like, oh, this recession's going on, I don't know how long it'll last, right? So I would be skeptical to invest in an economy where I don't know if the recession subsided or not. So that's why it takes longer to sort of lean off. We can see net exports receiving relatively stable. So we're exporting more at the start and obviously taking a hit to exports later as perhaps consumers are importing cheaper goods from other countries just to get them through the crisis. And you can see sort of slowly here how government expenditure increases during the recovery period. So you've got starting up quarter one, quarter two, and then eases in quarter three once the recovery is finished. Also, you can see private investment, private consumption coming back, which is a show that recovery has actually worked because you've got private investment, personal consumption is coming back from all the fiscal policy that the government has implemented. So you can see that the government is probably borrowing quite a lot, possibly to do this. Actually, I'm kind of going into question 3 now. Not question 3, part 3. What might explain the differences seen in the role of consumption and investment during the recession and recovery phases of the business cycle? So, we've already discussed, actually we just discussed that, didn't we? So I suppose I've done both of these questions, I guess. But yeah, so that might explain the differences, because consumption itself is present-based and investment is future-based. They're going to experience different timescales in sort of their easing. So we're seeing here for 4, from the contribution to GDP growth of the government consumption and investment expenditure, what can you infer about the government's fiscal policy? Now, because we've seen that the government is increasing its spending by quite a significant margin, it seems, so it's quite large. You can see that government spending increases by much larger margins during this period. We can assume that the government is essentially using fiscal stimulus to essentially boost the economy back and boost up aggregate demand. Because you can see here that there's been a significant hit in aggregate demand overall. Okay, you've got less investment, you've got less consumption. Notably, let's look at investment though. If there's not as much investment in an economy, then firms likely fail. Okay, firms that have significant investors may pull out in a recession, and firms may be left without any funding. Okay, if a government offers perhaps loans to firms for which have relatively low interest rates or something like that, then firms can easily owe money to the government and get enough money to keep themselves going without the investment they previously had. So the government is essentially supplementing lost investment in order to make up for the crisis, almost, if that sort of makes sense. It's like you get your wallet stolen, yeah? And I'm your friend, so I'll just pay you the money that was in your wallet, okay? It's sort of like I'm easing the loss that you have. Obviously, you'll have to pay back money at some time, but for now, it's a little easier to work with it. And if you have a bit of money, maybe that can help you pay me back. So that's what I'm seeing. What did I actually write, though? Yeah. You can also see that if governments are perhaps providing fiscal stimulus to states who have suffered during the crisis, or even local governments and local businesses, that stimulus is also going to have knock-on effects. So another part of this question, which says, does this give you a full picture? Okay. And it also tells, think about the definition of GDP and the channels through which fiscal policy can operate. If we think about fiscal policy, it's sort of like an injection of that kind of stimulus into the economy, but that can have ripple effects, I'm thinking. So, for example, say the government invests money so on the state level, and the state passes that money down to the local level. Okay, on the local level, a local municipality can invest money into small businesses. These small businesses can grow, allowing more business in the area. What's more, governments can invest in public projects as well. They can put investment into other businesses, other firms. All of this stuff essentially improves the viability of the economy for other firms. Okay, and what's more, it gives you citizens more choice just to go out and do stuff. It also, if you're putting stuff in public projects like New York did with its subway during the period, that also encourages people to go out. It encourages people to sort of be more active in the economy. It encourages people to spend as well, which again brings aggregate demand up. Okay? Then if you have a constant sort of roll with this, where you've got businesses that are now paying back their investments, they're doing better than before, okay, after this crisis, then that's going to allow the fiscal policy to sort of work, sort of multiply itself, because everything is sort of reinforcing itself. Other businesses can now start to fund other businesses, which are then providing better things for consumers. I know it's a bit of a flimsy sort of thing to say, but I think the thing is you have a knock-on effect here. And if consumers are funded by better treatment on the local level and the state level, then they are more likely to spend, okay? And they're more likely to import goods as well as also saying investment in companies is also going to increase net exports as well. So if you have more investment, you also get extra net exports, which is fun, I think. It's a weird definition of fun, but that's at least what I think. So, question 2. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to answer this one for you guys, but hopefully I can come up with something. So, we are using... So we have 2 pieces of data we're using for this. You've got 15, I think you use 0.7. So this entire chapter should help you quite a lot with this. You've got the dynamics of the oil market, primarily. Let's read through this, actually. So the question is based around exercise 15.6, which is this exercise. Analyzing oil shocks. Oh, God. The context for the question is this section of the text, but there's a puzzle here. Why did the third oil shock from 2002 to 2008 not lead to increased inflation, just like the earlier ones? This section should have provided you with some starting points to investigate this, and a speech given in 2006 by David Walton, an economist, will help you. So we're also going to use this speech. Let's open this up. So we've also got this here. So this speech gives us a good idea about what's actually happening in the labour market, what's happening with inflation. So we're essentially saying that the dissimilarity, and what David Walton is saying, it's induced by increased market flexibility. So the labour market is a lot more flexible. It's easier to adjust wages and adjust employment levels. It's not as sticky, almost, which makes it a lot easier to sort of switch in and out workers instead of focusing on the costs from rising prices of oil. Okay? So, yeah, and you also have central bank independence and monetary policy as well, which is affecting it. So let's first of all look at this. What was the unit cost smaller due to less energy intensive production? It could be. Okay? So if you guys remember, unit cost is determined by the following. So you can see here, unit costs are UMC plus ULC, which is the unit labour cost plus the unit materials cost. Now the unit materials cost, the price of oil, is as an exogenous variable. It is outside the firm's control. But the unit labour cost is within the firm's control, right? So a firm can reduce unit costs by simply reducing its unit labour cost, right? So, here's the thing. But this question is also asking, is it the unit cost increase smaller due to less in energy intensive production? So if the cost of production is smaller as well, just from that standpoint, it's going to be a lot more efficient to produce the oil, and so the price goes down. So no, the price goes up. The price is still going up. It's just going up at a lesser rate because it's easier to produce it, really. Yeah. So it's also explaining this here. This would have made the increase in materials cost per unit of output smaller and reduced the size of the initial downward shift. If you guys remember, in chapter 15, we can see that the price setting curve in our model shifts down, essentially, when we see prices increase. Okay? Prices increase, remember, let's look at this. So if we remember, with a price increase, the real wage will decrease, because if we observe the real wage, if prices increase, then the rate of inflation increases, and so the real wage will decrease. You can see how this is sort of having an effect here. Hopefully that should make it a little clearer. So you have that graph there. So what I say is that it is possible that efficiencies could have had an effect on the reduced unit cost, but it is also possible that labour market efficiency and market flexibility also has an effect on how the reduced unit cost worked. So let's look at the second one. I haven't gone past this. Did the wage setting curve shift downward at the same time as the third oil price shock? This would have reduced or even eliminated the bargaining gap. So if we sort of think about that, let's go back to this, okay? So if we see a bargaining gap created by sort of this situation, hold on. It says raise up or down. Ooh, pardon me. When it says up, surely it doesn't mean, because that would enlarge the bargaining gap, surely. I'm so tired. Right, let me have a look here. Did the wage setting curve shift downward at the same time as the third oil price shock? This would also have reduced or even eliminated the bargaining gap opened up by the oil price shock. So what we're saying here is that per the WSPS model, okay, let's just imagine this is WSPS as well. Well, it is technically, yeah. If the wage setting curve shifts up, then that means that this point is going to go here, back up to the previous price setting curve. But it also means that it's also going to go sort of like this, and then the equilibrium is going to be in a new place, almost here, right? It's weird, but that would reduce employment. Okay, it wouldn't bring you back to the price setting curve, eliminating the bargaining gap. It would almost enlarge it, you know? I don't know if that actually works. When it says up, does it perhaps mean right? The wage setting curve, I think it might mean right. I don't know. Maybe? So, this would also, yeah, okay, so, see, if the curve is moving to the right, I can see how it's reducing the bargaining gap, okay? By essentially saying that, okay, oh, wage term, oh, shifting downwards at the same time. Yes, okay, so if it's shifting downwards, then that does reduce the bargaining gap. Okay, I understand now. So it's shifting, the wage setting curve is shifting downwards, which means A is going to bring back to its previous level, and it's going to be at the same, pretty much, equilibrium as before. Although with a, I believe, okay, so if this was the pre-shock equilibrium, then you move up the price curve, and then, yeah, so then you have the inflation stabilizing employment level here. So you have that initial bump, I suppose, in the bargaining gap, and then you go back down. I think that's right, yeah? I don't know. But yeah. And then with the new one, if the wage setting curve moves down, then you see the equilibrium moves back to where we were before. So, it is possible that it shifted down at the same time, but it is also possible that an exogenous variable had an effect on the employment level. Okay, for example, some employees may have been taken out of the labour process. As we've stated previously, we've seen that the labour market has a lot of flexibility. Okay, so it is possible that, you know, employees were taken out and put in, and there was a lot of inconsistent work schedule, I suppose. I think it is possible that it shifted down, but the coincidental nature of it, because for the wage setting curve to shift down, let's look back here. Yeah. What pushes the wage setting curve down? Oh no, I'm going to do a quick bit of research. I have an idea. So it could be that the wage setting curve shifted down because the inflation increased in the economy all at once. So let me sort of explain. For the wage setting curve to shift down, at every level of employment, the real wage must decrease. For the real wage to decrease at every level of employment, there has to be some reduction in the price level, right? So if you see economy-wide inflation, then the real wage shifts down for everywhere on the wage setting curve, okay? So an increase in oil price would also correspond with an increase in the price of all other goods, thereby meaning the wage setting curve shifts down. At least I think that works. Who knows? It's up to you guys, after all. Did a wage price spiral fail to develop because expected inflation did not adjust upward, as in the past oil shock? So, expected inflation are very different things. So, I don't know how they were different. See, I'll let you guys know something. I haven't really done the notes on this chapter yet. It's quite unlike me. I've been very busy. Very busy. So, I've not fully read it. It is a shame. I would like to have more time, but I've got other stuff to do this week. I would have waited until Thursday to do this video, but I didn't really have time. That's why I'm up at 4 recording this. But yeah, let me have a look at this question, and I'll get back to you guys in a bit. Just one moment. So, if we look here, in 15 point something, 6. How lovely. Expected inflation is, when we're looking at the Phillips curve, we're seeing that we've got a difference between, you've got the bargaining gap there, and the expected inflation is all the area underneath the bargaining gap when we're referring to the inflation rates in practice. Now, if there is a 0 expected inflation, essentially, then it sort of maintains that we're not going to see too much inflation in the future. So you can see sort of the sequence of events here. An increase in expected inflation corresponds with an increase in wages, which corresponds subsequently with an increase in unit costs and then an increase in prices. Okay. What this question is saying is that did a wage price spiral fail to develop because expected inflation did not adjust upwards as in the past oil shocks? Okay. So if it could be that expected inflation did not adjust upwards enough. So perhaps people did not expect there to be as much inflation as before, perhaps because there were enough controls in place, or people in the industry knew that there were enough controls in place, especially with the labour market flexibility, that a wage price spiral would not develop, because you would not see that happening. A wage price spiral, to me, as far as I can tell, is that when expected inflation keeps on producing an increase in wages, as increasing prices happen and increasing prices happen, so wages and prices increase in tandem until, a spiral occurs, sort of. It didn't happen because expected inflation kind of broke out and it sort of just eliminated itself. Because there was apparently, it could have been that there was no bargaining gap in the first place. So because the bargaining gap was so small, that expected inflation was too small enough to prompt a wage price spiral. It could be that. It also could be that there's enough regulation in the industry, but let's look back at here. So you're seeing here that you've got a lot of stuff about, yeah. So I'm just reading through here, yeah. So you can see here, the cyclical loss of output could become permanent if workers used to accept a low compensation wage. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to read through here. The rise and nature of the stock have been different, yeah. Well, so fundamentally the shock was different. That's always a possibility to look at here. Okay. The shock takes longer to unfold, allowing businesses to adjust over a longer period, which may be why there's not so much of a spiral, because expected inflation did not grow to such a level that it would be, because it's not really a shock in the sense that it happens over a very short period of time. It happens over years. So perhaps there's more of an ability to adjust. And then there's the placement of the UK economy with the Monetary Policy Council, or whatever it is. Monetary Policy Committee. Okay? So you've got, no real wage resistance as well, which is also, because there's little wage resistance as well, businesses aren't, this is actually a bit more, if there's little wage resistance, then businesses do not need to raise wages, okay? Because if you have little wage resistance, then you can essentially control prices within your own company by the fact that you don't need to raise wages on your employees to compensate for the increased expected inflation. So that's why they have it. It's more a bit more of a self-regulating thing. Okay, so all those things sort of contribute towards that question. And then finally, identify some initial evidence. It could be really anything. Let's try finding something right now. So I use JSTOR mostly for my stuff. JSTOR, there it is, JSTOR Home. Okay. Now we can use evidence to back up any of these points. We can see that the length of the oil shock may have affected things. We could also say that for question 2 especially, we could say that there's been increased rates of inflation around the entire country during the time. In fact, we could even search up on Fred. So let's go back to Fred, and we can see maybe if there's been a rate of inflation over that period regardless. So let's go for CPI. So if the CPI increases over that period, then that may be a good indicator that there's been a significant enough change. So from, it said 2000, roughly 2002, right? To 2008, something around that. Not particularly, no. So you see consumer price index here? It obviously has a percentage change, but overall I'm seeing it's holding fairly constant. There is maybe a slight increase here, but it's very ambiguous. I mean, let's look at the index. I mean, we can see there's a slight increase, but relative to everything else, it looks fairly constant, you see here. So you can see all of this out. It looks like there's just a constant increase, really. So I don't see any notable things. I mean, we can see a slight increase here, I guess, but there's not really much. In fact, it looks like almost it's leveling out over that period. So perhaps it's not an overall increase in the CPI over that period that would indicate the wage setting curve shifting downwards. What if we want to go for the first one instead? Was the unit cost smaller due to less energy intensive production? We can also state the flexibility of the labour market. So we can also say labour market and oil. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of results for this. Let's slim down it to journals and economics. There we go, 4,000. Maybe if we search for something with the keyword flexibility, then we could try to see if we've got anything more specific. Ah, here we go. No, that's 1998. Okay. What if we explicitly state things from 2000 onwards? This is how I sort of search for things. Okay. Let's say just in the UK for now. Okay, I don't think I slimmed it down again. There we go. We've got 900, and we've got, let's say, from UK labour market. This could be useful. Let's have a look here. Right. It was changed dramatically by Thatcher and Mayor governments. The consequences for it are explored. Okay, that could be good. But yeah, this is just one source that you guys could use. You can use a lot of others. So you can see how labour market flexibility affects unemployment, long-term implications of the chain reaction theory. This is also relevant, but was done in 1998, so I would probably not. Well, it could be useful. We never know. Inflation adjustment and labour market structures. Ah! Oh, but that's from a Scandinavian journal. I don't know. See, this is UK productivity and jobs model to the answer why in wage flexibility. That could also be good. And it's from the Economic Journal as well. In fact, I think I'm going to highlight that one. Okay. I think that's enough for today, don't you guys think? Hopefully, I've helped out with the graph. Okay. Sorry, I could be of more help with 2. I'm sort of in a haze right now. But hopefully I can help out with other stuff if you guys just contact me or something. Okay. I think I'm done. Have a nice night, day, afternoon. I don't know what you guys are doing. But hopefully it helps. All right. Bye.